Greetings and a very warm welcome to GS World's special current affairs program, The Current Affairs Show. I'm Pragya Vatsal Mishra and I'm here with all the highlights of the week. Let us take a quick look at the headlines. The National Green Tribunal has directed the Orissa government to prepare an action plan within 14 months on 14 marked elephant corridors to provide stress-free migration from one habitation to another habitation in the state. The state government had proposed to expand 14 corridors in a total area of 870.61 square kilometers. The Government of India has allowed postgraduate doctors of Ayurveda to perform surgeries to further promote Ayurveda in the field of medicine. Now, Ayurvedic postgraduate doctors of the country will also be able to perform 58 types of surgeries like allopathic doctors. The Bangladesh administration has begun to move thousands of Rohingya refugees to an isolated island, ignoring the urges of human rights organizations. The United Nations has also expressed concerns that refugees should be allowed to take free and considered decisions to relocate to an island in the Bay of Bengal. Chinese scientists claim to have created the world's first light-based quantum computer. According to scientists, this computer can work much faster than traditional supercomputers. It has been touted as a major achievement by experts. Considering the current state of COVID-19 pandemic, the 2021 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum will be held in Singapore from May 13 to May 16 next year. The World Economic Forum announced this on 7 December at its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. It is to be noted that the 50th summit of WEF was organized in January 2020 on the theme Stakeholders for a Cohesive and Sustainable World. Now, let us take a look at the news in detail. NGT directs Orissa to submit action plan on elephant corridors. Recently, the National Green Tribunal has directed the Orissa government to prepare an action plan within 14 months on 14 marked elephant corridors to provide stress-free migration from one habitation to another habitation in the state. The state government had proposed to expand 14 corridors in a total area of 870.61 square kilometers, the length of which is 420.8 kilometers. Despite several years passed, there has been no concrete progress on the government's proposal. The NGT directed officials to expedite demarcation of corridors and process for formal notification within a specific time frame in 2017. The government had sought time to inform the NGT about an action plan to strengthen the corridors. However, it failed to take concrete action on the physical progress of the corridors. Therefore, an NGO, Wildlife Society of Orissa, WSO, a voluntary organization, demanded the NGT to take concrete action on the strengthening of the corridors. The Wildlife Society of Orissa, WSO, which is a voluntary organization, had sought the intervention of the NGT for necessary legal action against the encroachers in the proposed corridors and those who violated the provisions of the Forest Protection Act 1980 and the Indian Forest Act 1927. The government should remove unauthorized buildings from the reserved forest land. What is elephant corridors? The elephant corridor is a narrow stretch of land that connects two large habitat areas. The development of elephant corridors not only makes it possible to stop elephants in the forest, but also reduces the incidence of entering their populated areas. Corridors may include large commercial estates and unused places in grain or agricultural land. Why is the need? Elephants need a large field for food, but most reserves do not meet this requirement. This is why elephants come out of their habitat, which increases elephants' conflict with humans. About elephant corridors in India. In the year 2005, 88 elephant corridors were identified, which has increased to 101. About 70% of these are regularly used by elephants. Of these, 29% have encroachment of human or human activities on the corridors. In addition, 66% of the corridors are such that the highway passes through. Rail tracks pass through 22% of the corridors. These elephant corridors are marked only under the provisions of the Forest Protection Act 1980 and Indian Forest Act 1927. Efforts made in this context. Gaj Yatra. This is a nationwide campaign to protect elephants which was launched on the occasion of the World Elephant Day in 2017. There are plans to include 12 elephant range states in the campaign. The campaign aims to create awareness about elephant corridors to encourage free movement in their habitat. Government allowed Ayurveda doctors to do surgery. Recently, the Government of India has allowed postgraduate doctors of Ayurveda to perform surgeries to further promote Ayurveda in the field of medicine. Now, Ayurvedic postgraduate doctors of the country will also be able to perform 58 types of surgeries like the allopathic doctors. The National Integrated Medical Association, NEMA, the largest organization of Ayush doctors, expressed happiness over this decision of the government. But the Indian Medical Association disagreed over the decision of the Government of India. There are two branches of surgery in Ayurveda: the Shalya Tantra, which is related to general surgery, and the Shalakya Tantra, which is related to the surgeries of eyes, ears, nose, throat, and teeth. All postgraduate students of Ayurveda have to study these courses, and some of these students acquire expertise to become Ayurveda surgeons. Implications of the notification. The notification mentions 58 surgical procedures in which postgraduate students will have to train and gain the ability to perform surgery independently. All the surgeons mentioned in the notification are already part of the Ayurveda curriculum. Now, patients will be able to know properly about the capabilities of Ayurveda physicians. The skill set is clearly defined. This will remove the question marks on the ability of the Ayurveda physician. Rohingya refugees. Recently, the Bangladesh administration has begun to move thousands of Rohingya refugees to an isolated island, ignoring the urges of the human rights organizations. The United Nations has also expressed concern that refugees should be allowed to take free and considered decisions to relocate to an island in the Bay of Bengal. Rohingya refugees are being transported to the Bhashanchar Island in the Bay of Bengal. Facilities have been developed to house around 100,000 people on the island. Who are the Rohingyas? The majority of Myanmar's population is Buddhist. According to the report, the population of about 10 lakhs of the state is not included in the census. This population of 1 million is basically believed to be of the religion of Islam. Populations that are not included in the census are considered as Rohingya Muslims. They are said to be mainly illegal Bangladeshi migrants. The government has refused to grant them citizenship, although they have been living in Myanmar for generations. They have their own language and culture and are said to be the descendants of Arab merchants or other groups who have been inhabited in the region for many generations. People of the Rohingya community have been described by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres not the most in the world, but one of the most discriminated people. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs, there are around 40,000 Rohingya inhabited in India. Be aware that the Rohingya Muslims have been witnessing communal violence since 2012 in Rakhine State, Myanmar. History of the Rakhine Province. Rakhine is a province bordering Bangladesh at the northwest end of Myanmar, covering an area of 36,762 square kilometers. Sittwe is its capital. According to the Myanmar government's 2014 census report, the total population of Rakhine is around 21 lakhs, of which 2 million are Buddhists. About 29,000 Muslims live here. About the Bhashanchar Island. Bhashanchar Island is also known as Thengar Char Island or Charpia. The island was formed 2 decades ago by the Himalayan silt at the mouth of the Meghna River in the Bay of Bengal. The island is spread over an area of 40 square kilometers. This uninhabited island is located about 30 kilometers east of Hatia Island in southeast Bangladesh. Bhashanchar Island falls under an ecologically susceptible area due to floods, erosion, and cyclones. The island was regularly submerged during the monsoon month, but flood protection, embankments, house, hospitals, and mosques are now built by the Bangladeshi Navy at a cost of $112 million. Light-based quantum computer. Recently, Chinese scientists claim to have created the world's first light-based quantum computer. According to scientists, this computer can work much faster than traditional supercomputers. It has been touted as a major achievement by experts. This provides a fundamentally different approach to designing such powerful machines. The quantum computer named Jiuzhang is not only a milestone in computing, but also demonstrates the benefits of quantum computation. Quantum computers work very fast, which is not possible for traditional computers. With their help, there are achievements in the fields of physics, artificial intelligence, and medicine. It is capable of doing some calculations 100 trillion times faster than the world's most advanced supercomputers. This supercomputer is named after Jiuzhang, the ancient Chinese treatise of mathematics. The supercomputer can do calculations in just 200 seconds, which takes 600 million years to make Fugaku, the world's fastest computer made by traditional method. About supercomputers. The supercomputer is said to be the computer which are at the forefront of computation power and some other matters at the present time. A supercomputer equipped with state-of-the-art techniques can perform very large calculations and rapid calculations. In this, many microprocessors work together to solve any complex problem immediately. Supercomputer is a computer with the fastest capacity, efficiency, and the highest memory capacity among the currently available computers. Supercomputers can perform 1 billion calculations in a second, measuring its speed with a megaflop. World Economic Forum Meeting 2021. Considering the current state of the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2021 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum will be held in Singapore from May 13 to May 16 next year. The World Economic Forum announced this on 7 December at its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. It is to be noted that the 50th summit of the World Economic Forum was organized in January 2020 on the theme Stakeholders for a Cohesive and Sustainable World. The World Economic Forum's annual conference of 2021 will be the first offline meeting on the subject of world reform after the epidemic among leaders of governments, enterprises, and organizations worldwide. The goal of this time's conference will be to find solutions to the most important challenges around the world. About the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is a non-profit organization based in Switzerland. It is headquartered in Geneva. The forum was established in 1971 by Professor Klaus M. Schwab, working at the University of Geneva, known as European Management. It has been recognized by Swiss authorities as an international institution for private-public cooperation. Its mission is to set global, regional, and industrial directions by bringing together leading people in the business, politics, educational, and other fields of the world. Some important reports to be published by the World Economic Forum are Global Competitiveness Index (GCR), Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report, and Global Information Technology Report. The membership. Membership of this institution is on many levels, and this level depends on participation in the activities of their organization. For membership, they go to companies that are leaders in their industry around the world or are playing an important role in the progress of any geographical area, some of which are employed in a developed economy. India-US campaign against drugs. India and America will now jointly launch a campaign against drugs. Both countries believe that a decisive battle is now necessary to stop the hazardous spread of drugs. Both countries have entered into an agreement in this matter. The two countries identified the themes of joint action and resolved to continue mutual coordination on this important issue. During the recently held Counter Narcotics Working Group inaugural meeting, the two countries also agreed to enhance their data sharing operations to conduct production, distribution, export and import of drugs and chemicals. The Indian delegation was led by Sachin Jain, Deputy Director General of the Board of Narcotics Control, Ministry of Home Affairs, while Kemp Chester, Assistant Director for National Drug Control Policy from the US side, led the White House office. Both sides identified areas for joint action and resolved to continue their close coordination on this important issue. The participants highlighted their efforts to combat drug trafficking in accordance with the rules and regulations of their respective countries and proposed to share best practices for combating synthetic opioids and precursor chemicals. India's policy on drugs. Drug-related laws include the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act of 1985 and the Prevention of Illicit Trafficking in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances of 1988. According to the NDPS Act, production or manufacture of drugs or cultivation, transportation, use, sale, purchase of drugs, etc. is illegal. About America's efforts. The US also made considerable efforts for a ceasefire in Afghanistan in the year 2002 to 2017. The US government spent approximately $8.62 billion on counter-narcotics efforts in Afghanistan during these years. Despite this investment, Afghanistan is still the world's largest opium producer. Consent to contempt action. Recently, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal has given consent for a law student to initiate contempt proceedings against cartoonist Rachita Taneja. The Attorney General called the tweets, including cartoons, motivated by the purpose of bringing the Supreme Court into disrepute and undermining the authority of the court in public view. Related laws. The Contempt of Courts Act 1971 defines civil contempt and criminal contempt and the powers and procedure of the court to punish the culprits in a contempt case. Contempt of court means defying a court and its officials and showing disrespect for its rights by the dignity of the court, justice, and behavior that is opposed or disobeying its authority. Why is the Attorney General's consent necessary to initiate contempt proceedings? The purpose of requiring the Attorney General's consent before a complaint is taken into consideration is to save the court's time. The court is the first forum to initiate a contempt proceeding. If infrequent petitions are filed, the precious time of the courts is wasted. The purpose of the Attorney General's consent is to stop inferior petitions. It is believed that as an officer of the court, the Attorney General will independently investigate the validity of the complaints. Under what circumstances does the Attorney General's consent not be required? When a private citizen wishes to initiate contempt proceedings against another person, the consent of the Attorney General is mandatory. However, when contempt proceedings are initiated by the court itself, the Attorney General's consent is not required. This happens because the Indian Constitution empowers the court to initiate contempt proceedings and the court does not rely on the Attorney General's consent to exercise its constitutional powers. What will happen if the Attorney General does not agree? If the Attorney General refuses to give consent, the case ends with it. The complainant, however, may bring the matter to the notice of the court separately and urge the court to take cognizance of the matter. Articles 129 and 215 of the Constitution of India empower the Supreme Court and the High Court respectively to punish the guilty persons of contempt of court. About the Attorney General of India. The Attorney General of India is the chief legal advisor to the central government and is its principal advocate in the Supreme Court of India. He is a part of the federal executive. The appointment and eligibility. The Attorney General is appointed by the President of India under Article 76, Clause 1 of the Constitution and holds office after the President's offerings. He must be a person qualified to be appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court. He must be an Indian citizen. He has experience of working for 5 years as a judge of the High Court of any state of India and has completed 10 years as a lawyer in a High Court. According to the President's opinion, he should be an expert in judicial affairs. Committee constituted for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Recently, the central government has constituted a high-level inter-ministerial committee for the implementation of the Paris Agreement to achieve its goals under the global agreement. The 17-member committee will consist of members from 13 major ministries of the central government. Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Secretary R.P. Gupta will head this committee and MOEFCC Additional Secretary Ravi Shankar Prasad will be the vice chairman. The committee will also act as a national authority to regulate carbon markets in India. The aim of the AIPA is to create a coordinated response to climate change matters, which ensures that India is on the path towards fulfilling its obligations under the Paris Agreement, including its national fixed contribution. About the AIPA, this body will have the power under Section 5 of the Environment Protection Act 1986 to issue guidelines to industries or any institution for compliance with cleaner efforts in line with India's goals. It will act as a national authority to regulate carbon markets in India under the Paris Agreement. AIPA will issue guidelines for carbon pricing and market mechanisms to offset the carbon footprint of the emitters. AIPA aims to create a coordinated response to climate change matters which ensures that India is on the path towards fulfilling its obligations under the Paris Agreement, including its national determined contribution. The committee will also formulate programs and policies if necessary to make India's domestic climate actions consistent with its international obligations. 7th meeting. Recently, India-Suriname's 7th Joint Commission meeting was held virtually. During this meeting, the two countries reviewed bilateral relations, discussed the importance of the existing system in deepening political dialogue, as well as exchanged views on multilateral and regional cooperation. During this meeting, the ministers confirmed the renewed pace of relations between India and Suriname in the field of trade and investment. This will promote cooperation in health, creative establishments, traditional medicine systems, mining, agriculture, defense, consular cooperation, and development partnerships in culture and education, and strengthen the mutual relations between the two countries. Various pipeline projects were also discussed, as the two countries stated that they were ready for early implementation of these schemes. India and Suriname also reaffirmed their commitment to mutual support in various international fora, including reforms of the UN Security Council. According to an agreement, the next meeting of this joint commission will be held in Paramaribo in the year 2022 at a date convenient for these two countries. Postal ballot facility for eligible overseas Indians. Recently, the Election Commission has proposed to the government to provide the facility of postal voting system electronically to eligible overseas Indian voters as well. It is to be known that this facility is still available for military personnel. According to the Commission, it is technically and administratively ready to provide this facility in the assembly elections of Assam, West Bengal, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Puducherry. The assembly in these states between April and June next year. Elections are to be held. Under Section 62 of the Representation of the People Act 1951, every citizen registered in the electoral rolls has to be given the right to vote. The current voting procedure for non-resident Indians. Voting rights for NRIs were enacted in the year 2011 through amendments to the Representation of People Act 1950. The non-resident Indian NRI can vote in the domicile constituency mentioned in their passport. They can only vote in person, and they must be present, and their original copy of their passport must be present to prove their identity. Current number of migrant voters. According to a 2015 report by the United Nations, India's migrant population is 16 million and is the highest in the world. How will the overseas Indians vote on postal ballots if approved? As per the Election Commission's proposal, any NRI interested in voting through postal ballot in an election must notify the returning officer 5 days before the election notification. On receipt of this type of information, RO ballot paper will be sent electronically to the NRI. NRI voters will have to download the ballot paper and indicate their preference on the printout and send it back with a declaration form verified by an officer appointed by the diplomatic or consular representative of their current country. Proposal to give proxy voting rights to migrant voters. The proposal for proxy voting rights for NRIs was passed by the Union Cabinet in 2017. For this, a bill was introduced by the government to amend the Representation of People's Act 1950. The bill was passed by the Lok Sabha and it ended with the dissolution of the 16th Lok Sabha while pending in the Rajya Sabha. Andhra Pradesh Gaming Amendment Bill 2020. Recently, the Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly passed the Andhra Pradesh Gaming Amendment Bill 2020 by voice vote. This will now put a ban on online gaming in Andhra Pradesh. Why was the need for a bill? According to Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy, the bill was introduced after some youth in the state committed suicide after being caught in debt after playing online games. The bill was amended to bring online gaming within the ambit of the Andhra Pradesh Gaming Act 1974. Online gambling can induce criminal behavior in society and increase the number of organized crimes such as fraud and money laundering. Many internet websites that claim to provide gambling services are not authentic, and there are no regulatory measures to check the legitimacy of these sites. According to the State Home Minister, due to no regulatory measures, it becomes easy for such sites to cheat customers. He also said, that it also includes security and privacy issues. Provisions of punishment in the bill. Under the amendment bill, the punishment for the first offence will carry imprisonment up to 1 year and a fine of Rs 5,000. The term of this imprisonment may extend to 2 years, and thereafter there may be a fine of Rs 10,000 for each offence. Every offence has been made cognizable and non-bailable under this bill. Other details. The Andhra Pradesh Assembly has given a major boost to the aquaculture sector by passing the Andhra Pradesh Municipal Laws Second Amendment Bill 2020 and 3 other bills by voice vote, which contributes to around Rs 50,660 crore annually to the state's economy. Oman-India Friendship Association. Recently, Oman has announced to establish friendly relations with India. Oman's Foreign Minister, Syed Badr bin Hamad bin Hamoud Al Busaidi, announced this during a bilateral dialogue with his Indian counterpart, S. Jaishankar. During this dialogue, the two countries also reviewed their economic cooperation, capacity building, and training programs. This is the first of its kind initiative in West Asia. The aim of this association is to provide a platform that promotes friendship, understanding, and matters of mutual interest between the business and social communities of India and Oman. Oman is one of India's oldest defense partners in Western Asia. It is India's partner country in anti-piracy campaign, and India has supplied rifles to Oman. In 2018, PM Modi visited Oman and enhanced cooperation between the two countries in defense, energy, food security, trade, investment, and regional issues. In December 2019, India and Oman signed the Maritime Transport Agreement. The agreement enabled India to expand its reach into the Southern Indian Ocean, Western Indian Ocean, East Africa, and the Persian Gulf. It is a part of the Indo-Pacific vision of India. In addition, the Indian Navy has been granted access to Duqm Port. Duqm Port is the largest seaport located in the Indian Ocean. India is planning several projects in Oman. This includes the Sea Buckets Acid Plant, which is the largest in the Middle East. The project is worth $1.2 billion. In addition, an integrated tourism complex called Little India will be built under $78 million. IUCN World Heritage Outlook Report 2020. Recently, International Nature Conservation Association (IUCN) has published World Heritage Outlook 3. It is to be noted that the World Heritage Outlook 3 includes data from previous reports from the year 2014 to 2017. The report said that India's Western Ghats have been threatened by population pressure, urbanization, and climate change. Based on data from previous reports, in the World Heritage Outlook 3, it has been ascertained whether the conservation of 252 natural World Heritage Sites of the world over a long period is sufficient for their conservation. Since 2014, this report is being released every 3 years. According to this report, India's Western Ghats have been threatened by population pressure, urbanization, and climate change, which is a matter of concern. The Western Ghats of India is one of the 8 biodiversity hotspots in the world. The report states that 83 out of 252 UNESCO World Heritage Sites are facing severe crisis due to climate change, fire events, flood and drought, and coral bleaching. According to the 2020 report, the Western Ghats is one of the 8 hottest places of biological diversity, which is of significant concern. Purpose of report issue, which is identifying the most pressure protection issues. Purpose of report issue: identifying the most pressing protection issues, identifying well-managed sites, showing the benefits provided by these sites to the people, tracking the status of conservation of all natural World Heritage Sites. About the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. The International Union for Conservation of Nature is a global authority to preserve the natural state of the world, which was established in the year 1948. It is a union made up of both governments and civil society. Its headquarters are located in Switzerland. The organization aims to help find practical solutions to the world's most pressing environmental and developmental challenges. The union publishes a red list based on information obtained from a network of various conservation organizations around the world, showing the most threatened species in the world. India Mobile Congress 2020. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the inauguration ceremony of Virtual India Mobile Congress IMC 2020 on 8th December. IMC 2020 is being organized by the Department of Telecommunications and the Cellular Operators Association of India, Government of India. The theme of the India Mobile Congress 2020 is Holistic Exploration, Smart, Safe, Sustainable. The purpose of its event is to encourage Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Atmanirbhar Bharat, digital inclusion, and sustainable development, enterprise, and exploration. This program involving telecom industry will last for 3 days. The program aims to drive foreign and local investments, encourage research and development in the telecommunications and emerging technology sectors. IMC 2020 will include people from various ministries, CEOs of telecom companies, global CEOs, 5G domain experts, AI, Internet of Things, data analytics, cloud and edge computing, blockchain, cybersecurity, smart city, and automation sectors. Cellular Operators Association of India will also be included. The Cellular Operators Association of India is an industry association of mobile service providers, telecom equipment, internet service providers, and other digital technology companies. Havana Syndrome. Amid speculation over the use of PLA's microwave weapon on Indian troops in Ladakh, the US has made a major disclosure regarding the use of laser weapons after a lengthy investigation. It is to be noted that about 4 years ago, American diplomatic and intelligence officers stationed in Cuba, China, and other countries suffered from a mysterious neurological disease called Havana Syndrome. Now, in a report by the National Academy of Sciences, the possible cause of the disease has been described as directed microwave radiation. What is Havana Syndrome? In late 2016, many American diplomats and other personnel stationed in Havana became ill after hearing strange sounds in their hotels or homes and feeling strange sensations in their bodies. Apart from this, symptoms like nausea, severe headache, fatigue, dizziness, sleep problems, and hearing loss, etc. were found. The disease has since been referred to as Havana Syndrome. What are microwave weapons? Microwave weapons are called direct energy weapons. The greatest feature of such weapons is that they are less lethal, so that there is no risk of serious injury or death. Microwave weapons heat the water inside the body. This causes jealousy. This burning sensation is as much as touching a hot bulb. The effect of the microwave weapon is as long as the target is standing in the same place, but when left from there, its effect is reduced or up to nil. Which countries have microwave weapons? Microwave weapons were first revealed in the year 2007. It was made by the US, which it calls Active Denial System. According to the US, the purpose of making this system is to control the crowd or protect it. One of the motives of making these weapons is that it does not cause any serious harm. The US deployed it to Afghanistan in 2007, however, it was not used at that time. The Defense Research and Development Institute, DRDO in India, is also working on such weapons. However, it is still in its initial stage. United Nations Investment Promotion Award 2020. Recently, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development has declared Invest India, National Investment Promotion Agency of India, as the winner for the United Nations Investment Promotion Award 2020. It is based on an assessment of the functioning and activities of 180 national investment promotion agencies of UNCTAD. According to the Commerce Ministry, UNCTAD outlines the good activities adopted in Invest India. This includes trade rebate forums, special investment forums, webinars, programs organized on the internet, series, related activities on social media, and emphasis on measures to tackle COVID-19. In March 2020, UNCTAD formed a team to monitor the response to the IPA in the wake of the pandemic. UNCTAD, in its publication, highlighted Invest India's best activities such as Business Initiative Platform, exclusive investment forum webinar series, activations on social media and groups formed to tackle COVID such as business reconstruction, stakeholder outreach, and supplier outreach. The award is given to investment promotion agencies, IPAs, worldwide for their outstanding achievements and outstanding efforts. About Invest India. The Invest India Business Immunity Platform was launched by the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of India, functioning under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. This platform tracks the latest information related to the coronavirus. Its objective is to provide the latest information on various initiatives of the central and state governments and to provide answers to questions through email or WhatsApp. It has been prepared by an expert team from various business fields, which provides immediate solution to all kinds of queries. Smuggling Report 2019-2020. Recently, Union Finance and Corporate Affairs Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has released Smuggling Report in India 2019-2020 on the occasion of the 63rd Foundation Day of the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. The Trafficking Report in India analyzes organized smuggling on gold, foreign exchange, narcotics, security, environment, and commercial fraud. According to the report, in the year 2019 to 2020, the DRI arrested 837 economic offenders and revealed 761 complex cases of customs evasion worth Rs 2,183 crores. It also detected 412 cases of smuggling, which led to seizure of prohibited property worth Rs 1,949 crores. Under Operation Calypso, an international drug trafficking racket was busted, covering 3.3 kgs cocaine was seized. Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu have the highest number of drug seizures during 2019 to 2020. Directorate of Revenue Intelligence is an Indian intelligence agency. It is India's premier anti-trafficking intelligence, investigation, and operations agency. The Directorate is run by officials of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, CBIC, who are deployed as part of the Customs Migrant Intelligence Network in its various zonal units as well as Indian embassies abroad. It is headed by the Director General of the rank or Special Secretary to the Government of India. The DRI works to secure India's national and economic security by preventing the smuggling of prohibited firearms, golds, narcotics, counterfeit Indian currency, antiques, wildlife, and environmental products. It also works to prevent the spread of black money, commercial fraud, and trade-based black money trade. UNESCO World Heritage City, Gwalior and Orchha. Recently, the historic fourth cities of Madhya Pradesh, Gwalior and Orchha have been included in this list of World Heritage Cities by UNESCO under its Urban Landscape City program. UNESCO will now prepare a master plan with the Tourism Department to improve the historical sites of Gwalior and Orchha and enhance its beauty. In the year 2021, the UNESCO team will come to Madhya Pradesh and will prepare a master plan by looking at the heritage wealth here. This project will set an example for India and South Asia. Historical sites like Mansingh Palace, Gujari Mahal, and Sahasrabahu Temple will also be chemically diagnosed to make the art inscribed in them more visible. About Gwalior. Gwalior was established in the 9th century and has been ruled by the Gurjara Pratihara dynasty, Tomar, Baghel, Kachwaho, and Sindhya dynasties. It is situated on a sandstone plateau and has monuments, forts, and palaces. Its famous palaces include the Sun Temple, Jalvilas Palace, Tansen's Memorial, Tighara Dam, and the 15th century Gujari Mahal Palace. About Orchha. It was the capital of the Bundela Empire in the 16th century. Orchha means hidden palace. As its name suggests, it is popular for its temples and palaces. The famous palaces of this city are Raj Mahal, Jahangir Mahal, Ram Raja Temple, Rai Praveen Mahal, and Lakshmi Narayan Temple. Two high towers, Vayu Yantra in Orchha, are also center of attraction for the people, which are called Savan and Bhado. UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, encourages the identification and preservation of cultural and natural heritage around the world, which are considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. Finance is provided by the World Heritage Fund to preserve monuments requiring international assistance. The Convention on Natural and Cultural Heritage of the World was approved in the General Assembly of UNESCO in 1972 and is an international treaty. The most threatened sites are given priority in the allocation of funds. PM Vani Yojana. In a recent meeting of the Union Cabinet, 4 important proposals were approved. Meanwhile, the Cabinet has approved the PM Public Wi-Fi Access Network Interface PM Vani scheme. Other proposals that have been approved by the Cabinet include India-Suriname Bilateral Agreement, India and Luxembourg Bilateral Agreement, optic fiber connectivity between Kochi and Lakshadweep Islands, and Universal Service Obligation Fund scheme. The PM Vani scheme is being described as historic as it will revolutionize the world of technology and increase the availability of Wi-Fi across the country. This will also increase ease of doing business and make life easier. About the Yojana. As soon as the scheme starts, fast-speed internet will be available in far-flung areas of the country. The government will work at 3 levels to implement the scheme. This will include public data offices, public data aggregators, and app providers. Grocery stores under PM Vani will also be able to set up Wi-Fi hotspots by taking internet and internet service provider, that is ISP. Public data office. License, registration, and no fees will be required for the public data office. Public data offices will work to provide Wi-Fi service to use internet in mobile phones. The PDO office can be opened by any person, and to run it, he can take the facility from any internet service company or other. Public data aggregator. They will work to maintain society in the system. Will keep an account of public data office account. The government will license the public data aggregator within 7 days. Registration will be considered as license. App provider. India is the largest market in the world in terms of usage of apps. Therefore, to promote the app economy, the government will register the app provider within a week. With this, any app will be placed on the website along with the App Store, which will be able to reach you easily through Wi-Fi from PDO.